Yo, 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 it's your girl and boy CT. I'm Cindy Barnes.
And I'm Travis Barnes.
And we are the founders of the Overcomers Podcast.
The Overcomers Podcast is designed to help you overcome adversity and live your dreams. Every week we will be sharing stories of people who found their strength in their struggle. The Overcomers Podcast is sponsored by Journey 333, and that's a lot of threes, so let me tell you what it is. It's fitness, coaching, and nutrition. It is a place where we help you to look better, live better, and feel better, and it is mind, body, spirit. Today, we're going to help you get your mind right with our special guest. Hello, Overcomer Nation. Boy, do I have a treat for you. I think it was about 10 years ago, and I was in Providence, Rhode Island, and I saw this man speak, and I didn't even know all the accolades that went behind him at the time, but I just knew how special he was. I said, this guy has a whole lot more figured out than your average bear, than your average coach. Much more than I did, and I was so blessed to be in his session. So today I have on the show Dan John. He's competed at the highest levels of Olympic lifting, the Highland Games, a Weight Pentathlon. His books include Never Let Go, Mass Made Simple and Easy. He wrote Strength with, I don't know how to say Pavel's last name, so I'll go to Dan for that in a minute. From Dad to Grad. I know he wrote 40 Years with a Whistle recently. Can You Go? Now What? Another co-authored book, the Hardy Style Kettlebell Challenge. Recent book attempts. We can't even begin to cover all the knowledge that Dan has blessed our industry with, but we're going to make a good attempt today as we be respectful of Dan's time and bring him on the show. So Dan, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. Sorry about any confusion. That's on me. I've had a busy couple of months, but hey, hi. I know I don't know why it's so foggy in here. It doesn't.
We'll just roll with it. But no, thank you for your time. And, I know how busy you are. So, we'll get right into it. Dan, first, I just wanted to ask you, is there any way, being the Overcomers show, is there any way that adversity has shaped your life? Do you feel like there have been any struggles that have created?
Man, I don't know of anything I've done in my life that didn't start at some level with adversity, or there's a story for everything. And almost always it's overcoming. It's, my athletic career is built in the fact that I'm the youngest of 6 kids, that I was the youngest kid in my class because of my birth date. I'm Irish, so I hit puberty late. And overcoming all those, always being the last to hit puberty, being the youngest, just, I think, made me constantly sprint to try to stay up. And by the time when I caught up, I sprinted past. I don't know. And it's my knock on these helicopter parents who try to make their kids' lives easier. Especially when it comes to sports or academics. Athletics and academics, they both have the same. If you try to open the doors for them, that's great, but you're killing them long term, because it's the struggle, it's the challenge, it's the learning the little things. That's my knock on sports specialization too young, is that if you play soccer in the summer and basketball in the winter, we'll just make it that simple. In the soccer, you'll learn triangles. And when you come back to basketball in the winter, you'll understand at a different way triangles. And you'll be used to looking for 10 other people, not just 4. So a lot of the things people do nowadays I'm just so against, because I think long term it doesn't actually support the athlete, support the athlete's career.
Yeah. No, I love what you're saying too, about hitting puberty late and things such as that. Maybe there's some listeners, maybe they have a son or daughter, they have certain concerns about stuff such as that. But this, you may be listening rather than looking, but Dan John certainly did sprint, catch up, and then pass. We're talking about Dan, you have some amazing records and things that you've done and achievements. And so, hey, parents, don't worry and listen up, Overcomer Nation. If you're,
actually, I would even go to the point that, I first heard this in the 70s, is that you'd probably want to piece together a team. If you have like an American football team, that those kids 1 through 11, say good for you, but your team will be 12 through 35 long term. The problem you see is, if a kid, and the thing is, you can't help yourself. Everybody projects. I use this example a lot, but it's a rare high school female soccer coach who doesn't say, I tell you one thing, we're not good this year, but we're going to be great in a couple of years. Our young girls coming up. Well, yeah, it's true, because they're 8th, 9th, 10th grade girls. They're pre-secondary puberty. They haven't yet been hit by the social life, and the social life in the female athlete in high school has a major impact. It's kind of, girls don't want massive traps and huge shoulders, and for some reason, and so what happens is, very often you can't help yourself but project. You got a 5'9", 165-pound boy in the 7th or 8th grade throwing fastballs and striking everybody out. You can't help but project it. Oh, no question. Well, yeah, but the problem is, he's going to be 5'9", 165 as a senior, throwing 79 miles an hour, which would strike kids out in the 8th grade, but is just batting practice at the next level. So this happens all the time, and I'm not saying that you can't be great if you're not great young. I mean, you see that all the time, but that's the problem. You see the Serena Venus Williams, you see the Tiger Woods, you see the LeBron. Those are just a couple examples. Yo-Yo Ma, the cellist. You see a couple of those examples, and mentally people go, well, that's the norm. But that is actually it's a very rare kind of thing. So yeah,
really good.
Every championship I have, we did this thing at the Olympic Training Center. I'm sorry to cut in on you, but this is important. They gave us you had to write the top 10 worst things that happen in your career and the top 10 best things that happen in your career. And Jim, the psychologist, came over because he goes, I wanted to see yours. Mine were straight lines. My lowest point in my career led to my highest. My second lowest point, it's straight lines. So coming out of the whatever you want to call that, the defeat, the jaws of defeat, the whatever, that's what makes, that's what ends up making your happiest moments. And there's nothing new. The poet prophet Kahlil Gibran said the same thing 100 years ago. At your happiest moments, look inside your heart, and you'll see the seeds of your saddest moments. At your saddest moments, look into your heart, and you'll see the seeds of your happiest moments. Why do people cry at funerals and weddings? It's the same reason.
So good. Getting what you want, like we as coaches, when we talk about, the way that we train people, we understand that the strength comes from the struggle, right? You shouldn't get everything you want. You should have to struggle for it and then maybe get some of it, but maybe not all of it. It's a much better way to live. There's much better lessons in it and a much better.
In coaching, when you win the state championship, you don't learn anything. All of a sudden, you think that, all your systems were in check. You think that you were flawless. If you lose the state championship on the last minute by 2 points, you look over everything and you unpack those tiny little things. So sometimes winning, that's going to sound so contrarian, but sometimes winning can actually put you behind because you miss. Very often, like in high school football, you'll win 4 games that honestly it's 1 or 2 plays. But when you look back, you forget that. You think that, you just were faultless and flawless. So you have to be a little careful on some of this stuff. Yeah.
No, that's really good. I was listening to something the other day, and it was just talking about, how there's very few people that respond to winning like the way that Michael Jordan did, to walk into the gym the next day at 5 a.m. and, keep on working, right? I think
Jerry Rice, yeah.
Those championships, but very few people respond that way. In fact, it can be a bit of a setback because you think that you don't have to work as hard anymore. You're not working towards those big goals. Yeah.
In one of Bill Walsh's books, he talks about winning the Super Bowl and coming back, and he's sitting in his office and he's basically just kind of like cleaning papers and stuff. He's just, trying to find a place to put the trophy in. He looks out the window on the practice facility and Jerry Rice is running patterns. Jerry Rice is preparing for the next season.
Uh-huh.
As much as people talk about Michael Jordan and all that, I've always thought personally that Jerry Rice is a much better example because, in basketball, you can probably, and of course, everyone always forgets the Chicago, but they had Steve Kerr coming off the bench and hitting, 6 3-point. The Jazz had an answer for everything the Bulls did, except for Steve Kerr. The Jazz were better. It's Steve Kerr is the difference. And you can disagree with me, except I was there. Yeah, so it is interesting. I've always thought Jerry Rice, and he is, absolutely respected, but he was also in a game where, he needed 10 other players for him to get the ball. Whereas, there are no breakaway layups in American football. It's always a snap, a throw, a block, a lot of stuff has to go on. So for hard work, he's, and the interesting thing is, again, if you follow, you got to be careful. If you try to do things the way Jerry Rice did, you may end up a miserable failure. You might need a lot more time off. You might need more this or that. And so you have to be careful. Just enough. I'm rambling. Sorry.
No, that's great. I wanted to ask you a few questions. I remember being in your presentation a while back, and you were talking about some assessments that we have a lot of fitness enthusiasts that listen to this podcast, and I'm over 40, and so are they, right? We're not necessarily older, but this is some really good information. And one of the assessments was, I think it was, how many hands do you have to use to get up? Or
let me go. Do you want me to go through the whole thing real fast?
Yeah, if you could, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, okay. So it's called the 1, 2, 3, 4 assessment. Mm-hmm. 1 is, can you stand on 1 foot for 10 seconds? Now, if you can't, I send you to a medical doctor because something is wrong. Now, it could be morbid obesity, but that's still, I'm not going to work with a client who's morbidly obese without medical help, medical intervention. Mm-hmm. So if you can't stand on a foot, and someone's going to say, well, should you stand on both foots? And I'm like, okay, good. Yeah, whatever. I don't care. But if you can't stand on a foot for 10 seconds, okay. So that's a pass fail. Then we go to 2, and 2 is 2 measurements. If you weigh, and the measurement's simple, if you weigh over 300 pounds, I used to say, go see a doctor, dentist, and now I pick up the phone and I schedule your appointments because people don't follow. But I have you go to a dentist, because if we're going to have to do dietary interventions, you're going to have you can't have cavities and crown issues. Mm-hmm. So, very often, by the way, they come back and, I had 7 cavities. And I'll be like, yeah, I know. Not that I knew you had 7 cavities, but I knew the reason you're eating beige food all the time is you couldn't bite down. Number 2, I haven't seen an eye doctor. An eye doctor really can give you some insights about your general health. And of course, I'm just, someone called me an ableist not long ago, and that kind of bothered me because I didn't know what it meant. But it means that I tend to focus on people with both limbs and vision and hearing, which is funny because I work with the deaf community, which is kind of funny. But your eyes really are a window into what's going on. And then after that, I sent you to the third one will be a medical doctor, because by the time you get there, those other 2 doctors will have convinced you need to make a massive turnaround. Okay. Stand on 1 foot. Measurement number 1 is, do you weigh over 300? Measurement number 2, we take your height and your waist. If your waistline is over half your height, you are a body composition client, no matter what else you tell me. Mm-hmm. The bulk of the clients I work with, their waistlines are over half their height. So the bulk of the people I work with, no matter what they say, and if whatever else they say, they are a body composition client. Mm-hmm. So if you want to do this or that, great, but I'm going to work on body comp with you. Right. Okay, so stand on 1 foot, 2 measurements, 3 questions. Question number 1 is the most important. How many pillows does it take for you to sleep comfortably at night? Mm-hmm. If it's more than 1, you're a mobility client. Okay. And some idiot always says, well, I don't use a pillow. Well, is that more than 1? I love it when people try to one up you at workshops. It's always kind of funny, but the bulk, our gym record for pillows is 9. A guy used to play in the NFL a long time. And when I got him down to 3, his wife thanked me because she could finally get a full night's sleep.
You're
And it was mobility work.
Yeah.
Now, the interesting thing with most men, most of the men I work with, we call them 2s because of this Venn diagram we use, but most men have body composition issues and have mobility issues. Now, they want to lift weights. They want to get their bench up. They want to do curls. But if I can get them to do more mobility seems to help them sleep better. More sleep seems to help on body composition. Body composition seems to help them sleep better, which helps their mobility in their body. And it just starts this little loop for a while. Not a long time, but a loop. It happens. They increase their sleep, they increase their mobility, and they win-win. They want a bench press, but they need mobility. They need mobility and more sleep. Questions 2 and 3 are just for me to figure out what kind of person I'm working with. Question number 2, do you eat colorful vegetables every day? And everybody answers yes. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, with any kind of honest follow-up, you discover no. And then the third question is, do you exercise for half an hour a day? The answer is always yes. The truth is no. So I'm at a place in my career that I can just say, well, if they say yes to both those questions, my response is simply, well, then I'm not going to have to work with you because you're already doing everything. Then the person has that moment of honesty. Okay, so stand on 1 foot, 2 measurements, 3 questions. This takes a minute, 2 minutes at most. And then the 4 tests. Can you hold a plank for 2 minutes? Any plank you choose, I don't care. And I don't even care about the quality of the plank. I don't care. It's just, and the way to make people fail the test is not say anything for the first minute, anything. And then at 59 seconds, say halfway, and most people fail. No one in my gym has ever failed the plank test. The joke is we're strong, but we're fat. If they fail the plank test, we're finished. We are done. Interesting. Most of the women I work with now are body composition and who also need strength work, but they want to do mobility work, but they really truly need strength. So that's just the way. Then after that, there's 2 simple tests. One is if they pass the plank, only if they pass, standing long jump, and then a farmer walk. Don't worry about them right now. But those 2 tests test me. After 6 weeks, I expect the standing long jump and the farmer walk to increase. If you've lost 12 pounds with me, you will jump farther. If you've been lifting, you will jump farther. If you don't, there's something wrong with the program. Your farmer walk should improve. Your grip strength should be up. Your work capacity should be up. Your farmer walk should be up. If not, I'm doing something. And finally, your point. I used to use the Brazilian get back up test exactly. Now, mostly I just say, well, you get down on the ground and get back up, and I can just look and just see. Mm-hmm. And usually it's massive mobility issues. It's anything from strength to mobility, old injuries, or just lack of getting up and down off the ground. So that's my 1, 2, 3, 4 assessment.
Yeah, no, I thought that was so good and so enlightening. And I guess I want to go back a little bit because you mentioned, well, 1, Overcomer Nation, there's a good one, is your waistline more than half your height? That's a great little test that we can all just do right now. The optometrist that you mentioned, if we went a bit deeper on that, the reason you have to see an optometrist, I believe, is because they can spot diabetes. Is that correct? Is that why you're looking?
They can see, a good eye doctor can see blood pressure issues, diabetes, actually cholesterol. They can see cholesterol. It's one of the few places you can actually see plaque. Mm-hmm. And this is the thing that Dr. Keller, my guy, he knows, like, he can tell me when I'm getting ready for a surgery. He says that. He says he can, well, it's also obvious, by the way, I'm moving, but because he can see the amount of damage done, the stress and the cortisol and the inflammation is done to my veins. in last, I go every December. Last December, he said he was shocked to see how much less pain I'm in 24 hours a day. And also how much, my pipes went from looking like they were on fire to very, very open, very happy, no visible signs of cholesterol. And because I'm, obviously I've lost weight, I've taken care of the injuries, and I do what I'm supposed to do. So I'm trending in the right direction. Yeah.
Wow. These eyes really are the window. That's so really cool. And, I guess just for our listeners, I know we have a lot of fitness enthusiasts at our specific franchise. They do these DECA events, and it challenges them to do a farmer carry. And they'll do a farmer carry for 100 meters. And the women use a 40-pound dumbbell in each hand, and the men use a 60-pound dumbbell in each hand, just for standardized, competition, right? But you would have a goal that they would carry how much in relation to their body weight?
Body weight.
Their body weight. Okay.
Yeah. It's not really body weight. If you're using pounds, just use a trap bar. Make it very, very simple. I mean, you could do it as simple. I mean, let's go 3 numbers: 135, 185, 225. So if you're 135 and below, you pick up the 135, 180, 136 to 185, 185. Anybody over 186, 225. You could throw in 205 there. You could make it as complicated as you like. But what you'll find over time is you really don't need the basic, like you did. You guys did the 60 and the 80. That's just whatever is that you don't want to. If you get it, it just becomes a waste of time. It's just too much work. Back when we used to use farmer bars on this, I mean, trying to figure out, how to load 197 pounds to 2 different loads.
2.5 pounds on the end.
Days figuring out what the heck to do with that. Yeah.
Sure.
So, and then I moved away from dumbbells and farmer bars to trap bars, simply because we can go we can go much faster. So if there's as few as 10 people, it doesn't sound like much, but swapping out dumbbells and swapping the weights on farmer bars versus just going, who weighs 135 or lighter? Here, go. Who weighs 185? Go. Anybody else? Go. And you just go back and forth and chalk up and go. Next person goes and chalk up. Next person goes. Yeah.
Really good. And what's your distance that you want them to travel with that?
Mine is to my corner and back on my street, which works out to probably, 100 meters, 100 yards in that ballpark. We don't. It's not.
And you have
just a test.
Yeah. When you mentioned the long jump, having a goal for them to get better.
Standing long jump. Yeah.
Yeah. Is there a goal with that? I think I remember, but I'd rather have you.
Your body height. Yeah.
Your body height.
I think you should be able to. There's certain things I think you should be able to do the rest of your life. Stand on one foot for 10 seconds. Stand on one foot for 10 seconds. Hang from a bar for 30 seconds. Sit in the bottom of a squat for 30 seconds. Standing long jump your height. Probably get up and down off the ground with minimal ugliness, Yeah. However we decide to measure that one. Yeah.
Very functional things for everybody to be able to.
Simple stuff. There's nothing in there. And the thing is, I feel that all those are pretty defensible. When someone raises their hand and says, well, I'm missing, a year when I got called an ableist, it's like, well, okay. But if there's an alligator in the water and you're hanging from the bridge, that 30 seconds is giving me a little bit more time to go help you. Okay. Right. Yeah. And trust me, if you fall in the water and there's 12 crocodiles, it doesn't matter what you might have been fine dropping in, but things are going to be changed when you get out. Okay. I'm not.
You mentioned grip strength, and I remember this also in your presentation. It had a little bit to do with life expectancy. You're mentioning getting off the ground, and at Journey, our franchise, the second highest demographic that we have, if our first highest is age 40 to 60, our second highest is actually over 60. We do a great job customizing and making the maybe slightly older population feel more comfortable. But you have some great information for those folks about. I'm trying to remember in your presentation, it talked about suffering a serious fall after the age of.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you could you share that information with our people today?
Sure.
You know?
So I'm 65. I'm 65. Most dangerous thing in my home is the floor. Okay. And in total candor, I have an issue with skin cancer. I've been dealing with it for about 20 years. And just, you go in and I go in 4 times a year and I look uglier every time I come out. But it's better for me to have it statistically at my age, it's better to have cancer than it is to fall and break something at my age, statistically for longevity. And the thing is, when you look at most gyms and you look at the way people train, you'll see that most people never get up and down off the ground. I asked this to presentations, how many of you still have your parents? When is the last time you saw your parent voluntarily on the ground? Voluntarily. And the joke I always say is, watch all the TV you want, just watch it from the floor like a single digit kid, like an 8-year-old would do it. Learning to fall and recover, is something we're not doing a great job on. But I say that's part one of it. So break falling is part one of it. Part two is just getting up and down off the ground and getting comfortable that if I do slip on some orange juice in the kitchen, I don't go into massive great white shark panic mode. I go into dogfish, leopard shark panic mode. Oh, there,
yeah.
I don't freak. I don't go crocodile alligator. I go into lizard mode. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Right.
And then the third thing, and it's so, this is just, so we got hit the ground and, do something smart. 2, is, getting up and down the ground. So you have a little bit of mental bandwidth to deal with it. But even before that is, we do a little drill where you kind of just step onto one foot. It's kind of like a stopped speed skater. So you step onto one foot and then just hold it there for a moment. So it's not a lunge, it's just you step, hold, catch yourself, bring yourself back. Kind of a slow speed skater, if you will. But the idea is, what makes you fall very often is you go, huh, whoa.
Yeah.
Well,
you're not
if
used
you
to
do
that
these slow, so what you do is you practice hitting that stumble. My friend Taylor Lewis calls it stumble proofing. There should be 3 phases to it, so to speak. There should be actual practice on mats on how to fall. There should be some get back up, get back down, Turkish get-ups, rolling on the ground, standing up, stand up, sit down, fight. And then but also too, the other one that a lot of people would ignore is the idea of practicing a stumble and bringing yourself back.
Really good takeaway here, Overcomer Nation. So to improve longevity, make sure that the most dangerous place in your house is not the floor, because you know how to land, you know how to get back off of it.
Exactly. So it's strange that you mentioned some of these topics, because it's called bounce. It's about resilience, coming back. Okay. And one of the things is, I've gotten to the point since you heard me last that I've taken this idea of the ground and all this to much, I wouldn't say more elegant, but just more thoughtful. So one of the things I strive to do is, we don't just, okay, it's great that you bench press. Good for you. Yay, you're a bench presser. Well, not very often in life will you actually do that movement, but if you press standing up, well, that's different, isn't it? It's a different level. And if you get on one knee on the ground and you press, that's a different level. If you lay on your back on the ground and you press, the floor press, that's a different level. And if you walk and press, we call it the seesaw press. That's a different style of pressing. Every one of those presses was pressing, but we did them at different levels, different different positions. The seated press, military press, and the standing press is subtly different. The single hand standing press is subtly different than the two. So what I'm doing now with my work is I'm trying to encourage people to not only, so progression in weightlifting, the most obvious one is load. I mean, everybody, that is almost by definition, weightlifting, increase in load. I mean, it's right there. And then the next progression would be, most people would talk about a sets and reps. Frankly, I think the least three important things in progression are load, reps, sets. I think far more important is movement patterns. So if all you have is this coffee mug as your load, that's it. Well, we would experiment in dozens of different ways to make you work really hard. So if I hold the coffee mug here, I don't know if for those listening, you can't see, but I just put the coffee mug on my fist, okay? And there's hot coffee in it. So when I go to press that coffee mug, even that coffee mug isn't very heavy at all. And I don't like talking to you right now because there literally is hot coffee in there.
Yeah.
Just talking to you with this light load, I can feel a little bit. See, you notice I've stopped?
Yeah.
I don't want to pour hot coffee on my lap. I'm
Sure.
funny that way. So simply by changing where you hold a load, simply by putting one knee on the ground, putting a foot up on a chair, walking backwards and pressing illuminates you. You honestly, I wouldn't want to compare it to that crocodile level of anxiety, but as you're punching your arms, walking backwards, your spider senses are trying to figure out all kinds of things. You're freaking yourself out, which is a nice way to get, we're trying to get that engine revving up. We just revved your engine up, Everything I always teach, as you know, is very simple. My goal.
I don't know if it's simple or that you make the complicated simple, right? Like I think we overcomplicate it, and you do a great job for all of us coaches that are, still trying to gain the knowledge that you've invested in over the years and you have to share. You simplify it, and I'm like, that's why I thought first time I saw you, I'm like, man, I want to learn more from this guy. I went right out and bought your books, and which I recommend everybody that's listening goes out and buys these books. You'll be better for it. Your training will be better for it. In fact, we'll post them in the show notes.
Thank you.
Dan, final question. What do you want your legacy to be? You must think about that with all these books and all the information you try to provide. If there's like one thing, I know legacy is such a big thing, right?
No,
there's books and stuff.
No, Travis. I think about my legacy constantly.
Okay.
That's not exaggerate. So I'm older than my mom was when she died, and I'm sneaking right up on basically when my dad died. I'm about the same age. So my folks died young. My aunts and uncles died young. People in my family. This hat here, this Paradise hat, Paradise, California. My brother died. If you guys get the National Geographic channel, that show called Rebuilding Paradise. Ron Howard was the director. The last third of the movie is my brother's funeral.
Oh, wow.
And it wasn't very long ago. And the San Francisco Chronicle wrote, it's an article. And when you read something like that, and of course, my brother's death was just absolutely tragic. The word tragedy means goat song, and it was a absolute goat song. So I think about it constantly. I talk to my daughters, Lindsay and Kelly, about the financial stuff. I talk to them about, and my daughter Kelly made a beautiful point the other day to me. I brought this up to her, and I hope you don't mind me being as candid as I always can't not be candid. That's
that's who you are.
And she said, "Dad, I don't want your money. I want you to take us all on a vacation, and so we'll have the memory. I want the memories, not the money." And I thought, wow,
that's good.
I haven't had a perfect life, but I nailed that one. That was pretty profound. My books are my legacy. I've got a new book coming out not long from now. I'm finishing touches on it. Literally this morning. called Easy Strength Omnibook. And the next book is something you'd know more about. I'm going to take Intervention, Can You Go, Now What, and then Easy Strength and compile them into one book, so they're all, and that will be another, that's a legacy book.
Yeah.
That's a collected works kind of thing. It bothers me, in fact, gentle readers, listeners, if you could, everybody knows I should be in Skyline College's Hall of Fame. I mean, the Hall of Fame people think I should be, but because of COVID and everything else or whatever, I really want to make sure I'm in Skyline College's Hall of Fame, not to say how great I am, but I brought them their first state championship. I was their state champion. I was the captain of the team, MVP. And it changed Coach Lahadi's life. And from there, he changed countless other people's lives. So I don't want our state championship, 77 California state championship, to be lost because we meandered away from it because of whatever. I think about my books, I think about my books. I'm in this office today, but over there, those are all the military groups I work with. Those are all they always coin me. I mean, I think about how many of those young men are dead, from the wars, and I try to keep alive, I keep this wristband on from a bunch of my friends who got killed 11 years ago this month. They all got killed. A whole bunch of my friends who I trained, and I think about, and I think about them, and I think about the fact that, the one guy's daughter, she's 15 now. How quickly we forget everything. And so my biggest concern is, the old Jewish concept, that you don't forget people's names. So I'll have a tombstone, or I'll have my name up on a wall, or, I have a grandson named Danny. I have a niece named Danielle. I have a cousin named Danny. My DNA will live on with my grandchildren. Ideally at some level, part of me will live on, Pythagoras, everyone knows Pythagoras as, the triangle guy, A squared plus B squared. People don't know he was also a coach. He was an athletic coach. His son-in-law was Milo of Crota, the guy who picked up the bull.
Yeah.
But Pythagorean theorem, he was a coach, but he also had this idea about immortality. To achieve immortality, build a house, that I'm sitting in that right now, write a book, and you have my books, have a child, and I'm here, I just listen to my grandsons upstairs, and plant a tree. And he said that was the four steps to immortality.
Wow.
But I take it much more serious than most people. And people actually think I'm joking when I talk about this. Oh, you're always talking about your death. And I'm like, very soon I'm going to be right. And, one of my good friends is probably going to be dead, soon, within a couple of days ago. I had said days. Now I'm saying hours. And his legacy, and I'll obviously make it public when it all happens, but, he took me aside in 1973 and showed me a few things about the discus, and he had a marvelous career. And, because of that few minutes he helped me when I was a freshman, sophomore in high school, allowed me to help all the athletes and people I've helped my whole life. That's what a legacy is.
Yeah.
A legacy is when those few small little moments carry on and carry on and carry on.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing your time with us. And
Sure. Thank you.
This last part, I'm inviting you back now for Legacy Part 2, where
Sounds good.
That would be so awesome. And guys, Dan John, go out there, Google it, just pick a book. You get so much good information from every single one of them. Dan, thank you so much for being on the show today. You're a true overcomer, and just somebody that I just hope that you guys listen to this episode again and again and just go get more information from Dan. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And I do indeed apologize about any and all mistakes on my end, but sometimes, when you got 100, you got 100 balls in the air, you're going to drop one. So, all
I'll
right.
tell you how busy this guy is. He said, listen, I get so many emails in my inbox. He says, please don't send it until a few minutes before the show so I can find it, right? So like, I get it, Dan. No problem at all. And
It's
thank
been
you.
bouncing. All right, my friend. Thank you. Stay in touch. We'll talk soon. Okay.
I'll see you in Providence. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening, Overcomer Nation. Make sure if you haven't already, give us a 5-star rating. Make sure that you share this and subscribe so you can see all of our future content.
That's right. And if you'd like to be a guest on a future show, go to overcomers-podcast.com. If you're interested in our franchise opportunities with Journey 333, then go to www.journeyfitness333.com. And finally, if you like what you heard today and you feel like you're somebody that needs a bit more coaching, go to travisbarnes.com.